And good morning again, everyone. I'm Peter Boyles in for Jeff and Bill, and they'll be back next week. I'll be doing a lot of radio this week and next. 710 KNUS Denver's talk station, 710 KNUS Weather Center weather. We may hit a record. The record's 68 for today, predicted 65 and above, 61 on Saturday, and then, as I said, the bottom drops out. Sunday, they call it an action day in weather. 1 to 3 inches of snow, 29 will be the high. It goes down to 6 degrees that night. It is unbelievable but true. 29 years ago, on this day, Patsy Ramsey claims she found the 3.5-page ransom note that begins everything that we talked about in the last hour with Mark Crowley. And in the meantime, no one better. You want to bring her up, please? Ladies and gentlemen, I was at a get-together on Christmas Eve, and I lucked out. Patty Calhoun walked in, and I was thinking I'm going to ask her to be part of the show as we look back 29 years ago, the Ramsey murder and the subsequent fallout that came from it. Patricia, thank you. I know you got limited time. Thank you for coming on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
We sat and talked about this on Christmas Eve. What happened and everything that swirled around it. And at the time, I'll just turn it over to you. Speak to that insanity that followed the discovery of that little girl's body.
Well, one of these lessons is just how much the media has changed since then. When you think about how much media there was that immediately descended on Boulder, Colorado, the day after Christmas when she was reported missing, I think even before the body was found. And it was national news. I was back in Chicago at my parents' home at the time, I think watching the Today Show when you hear this going on. And it was just incredible. I mean, truly a circus. And we didn't know at the time just what a circus it would become when you discovered what the police did and didn't do, what the district attorney did and didn't do.
It is, and it became, I was thinking so much the last couple of days because I wanted to do the show, it became tribal in terms of Channel 9, the Rocky Mountain News, and others. The Ramseys were innocent. On the other hand, there was me and Pendergast and, a handful of others that, I mean, it became a media war as well, did it not?
It did in a lot of ways. Well, I can't remember what was the exact date of what we called the Magnificent Seven press conference.
Oh, boy.
When hand-picked members of the media, including Paula Woodward, were pulled in for an exclusive with the Ramseys. And it was just certain people who'd met with their approval.
They took a hotel room, and they built a set, is what they did. And Patsy Ramsey, and you had to be under condition. And the condition was you cannot ask them about the murder. And so those 7 media mavens went, and I was stunned. I said, what are you going to do? You're going to ask Patsy about the euro? I mean, but they could speak about how they were being maligned and that they were victims of these horrible people like myself. And they had a chance, and I remember the great Paula Woodward moment where she had a chance to actually ask a question, and her question to Patsy Ramsey was, how's Burke? One shot. How's Burke? And Patsy, I remember telling them that they were the true media people of the Front Range, and they were all laydowns. Everybody that went in there totally laid down. But the Ramseys took all the furniture out and literally built a set. Then they had security, and they had a couple of gorillas at the door in case somebody like me wanted to attend. No, that's a great one. I'd forgotten all about that one too, Patricia. It just became the story, did it not?
Oh, and in some ways it still is the story. But what's fascinating, as I said, about the media is because of the rise of the internet, which pretty much coincided with this, you had a lot of, basement detectives who
Oh,
kept the Ramsey story alive and pushed their own theories. Of course, it also meant you had a lot of crackpots weighing in, but this story stayed alive because of that, and also because of what the tabloids did. The tabloids really pushed this story too, and in some cases did the best reporting.
thank you.
And that's what I was talking to you a little bit
Yeah.
about on Christmas Eve, because I got to be an expert witness for the Globe
We're no
because they were accused of buying the ransom note.
trying to buy it because now I didn't. I was subpoenaed in that trial. We were talking about it. I did not know until Christmas Eve that you were involved in that trial as well.
Just in the sense called as an expert witness to talk about if someone is trying to buy evidence, is it less valuable than other evidence? I mean, literally, that was the case because the tabloids were notorious for being willing to pay for interviews, pay for documents, which mainstream media didn't do. But does that make it any less valid than the things that are paid for? Because everyone has a motive when they tell the media something. They want to lie their way out of something. They really want the truth out there. They want revenge. Maybe they just want money and to tell the truth. And that was the testimony I was giving, I think, for Craig Lewis, the reporter on it.
I remember, I think we used a term that they parachuted reporters in here, and I told the story about I had been shown the note, and so I got subpoenaed by the prosecution in Jefferson County because I had seen the note, and I didn't. This is the same trial, and I think it was Fleet White was the only guy that really went to jail.
Fleet White was the only guy who went to jail. This was a different trial, but this is the Craig Lewis Globe issue, which was had it been I can't even remember what was he charged with, graft, robbery.
No,
I
thought they tried to bribe, and Pendergast will know, but I thought they tried to bribe or tried to buy the note from the handwriting expert. They went to his house.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just the side stories were incredible. But when you talk about the media changing, first of all, how small the media is now, the mainstream media compared to what it is. You used to have, for a national event like this, and anything with a 6-year-old beauty queen is going to be a national event because people will follow it. But they parachute huge groups in from national talk shows, from national media.
Yep.
There just aren't the resources like that anymore, much less here. We still had two heavily competing daily papers, plus the Boulder Camera, which was far more robust at the time, plus the TV stations that had their stars.
And everybody got involved. And it was the story then, the media becomes a bigger, I shouldn't say bigger, but becomes a huge event as well. And I told the story in the last hour, but I went on the air and said I had seen the note. I had not seen the original note, but I just saw, a photocopy. I saw the note. And I got off, and then my son was just still a young man, still in school. And I was skiing, and they knocked on the door. He answered the door, and they hit him with a subpoena. And I had been taken to dinner. My ex-wife and I had been taken to dinner by the team, the pay-to-plays, and I had said I'd seen the note, and the guy pointed to my ring and said, and he asked my ex-wife if she liked diamonds, which was a crazy question, and said, I will give her. He points to my ex-wife. He said, I'll give her a diamond that big if you give me the note. And I said, number one, I don't have the note. Number two, I wouldn't sell it to you. That's all it took. And we ended up in that trial. And I was there I had to go back 3 times. I really didn't know you were there. That was until, and Who brought you in? The defense team brought you in, right?
The Globe, yeah.
Yeah. How did I mean? And I remember, like I said, I was finally. It was a woman judge. I can't think of her name, and she finally granted me a press shield after 3 appearances. And the people who showed me the ransom note were actually sitting in the courtroom all the way in the back watching.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think a lot of So when you are a working reporter, the documents you use and the interviews you use and everything towards the stories are supposed to be privileged. They're protected by a shield. And you, as a talk show host, they weren't going to extend that to you. But then ultimately they did, which was good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I told the payoffs of the story was Jeff Schrader had been term limited, and other guys running for office, and it was Tancredo, myself, and Frank DeAngelis, and we went to this guy's rally, and they had barbecue, and I'm standing there with a plate getting food. This guy came up behind me, and he said, are you Peter Boyles? And I said, yeah. And he said, I was the guy that wanted to throw you in jail. They did. They wanted to throw me in jail.
Well, I'm sure he wasn't the first, and he won't be the last.
No,
Peter.
he won't be. No. I thought, well, round one. And what was the story with the picture with the little girl's hand? Patty Calhoun's here with Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS Denver's talk station. It was 29 years ago. Patsy Ramsey claims she found the ransom note. Remember the picture of the little girl with the if you would.
Yeah, it was a picture that had been taken in the morgue and was released. And until that came out, you mostly saw things that were in the public domain, which would have been the photos from the pageants, the video from the pageants. So you didn't really get a feel for her as just a little girl. And I remember when this photo came out, this little hand with the rope around it, and you really felt that vulnerability. And suddenly it was about a little girl's murder and not the whole circus. But unfortunately, the circus is what remains.
Ooh. Caplis had a theory, and Danny was deeply involved in this, and Danny believed that because there seemed to be an endless supply of video of JonBenet performing. And it's one of the variables that kept the story going. Because here she's doing. Now she's this. She's dressed this way now. And the one where she was dressed as a Vegas showgirl with the big fans above her head and everything, and she's 5 years old in high heels, which I thought was way over the top. But Danny believed it was Patsy herself that was supplying those videos to keep the drive alive, and.
I have no idea, but they were certainly out there, and the fact that the videos were out there, and some could have just come from the pageants themselves, the fact that there were the videos out there did keep things going because people could look, people were fascinated.
But you made the case, and who actually printed that picture first of her hand?
I think that was released by the coroner's office.
And then who printed it?
Because that was from there. We did. Many people did print it. Yeah. I don't think that was leaked, but I can't really remember. I think there were public documents coming out. Not many, as we know, from the police, but I mean, certainly the coroner had a report.
And I remember the great story that you guys did. This humanized this poor little kid. Wow.
Yeah. Because until then, it was just a sensational, made-for-TV story. Literally a made-for-TV story in this case.
No, and it did. I mean, there were so many books and movies and documentaries that came from that, and I didn't think any of them were really all that great, but they were certainly there. I've been urging Pendergast to, hey man, write this, and he really was and still is the reporter of record. But we were talking on Christmas Eve, J.T. Colfax shows up.
Oh, yeah.
Tell that,
this,
yeah.
the number of characters. Well, first of all, that Santa, as we remember, who had been a journalism professor,
Yes.
that Santa winds up, that poor man, Bill McReynolds, who winds up under the umbrella of suspicion to boot, just because he played Santa in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
J.T. Colfax, who injected himself into that whole case because he just happened to be driving, I think he was driving morgue cars.
Yes, driving morgue
and
mobiles.
He had been taking photos of cadavers with like little photos, like little signs in front of them, just these random characters. But of course, he would have access to information a lot of people didn't because of his job.
J.T., which was not his name, that was his nom de guerre, that was his war name, and he would have bodies, and he'd take, this is horrible, he would take pictures, and then he'd put signs on them, and then he would release them to the media, and the cops were after him, and this is
Oh yeah, he did get charged.
Oh.
Not in connection with John Bonet, but in connection with his other shenanigans.
He showed up at KHW and we were on Lincoln Street, and he came into the studio, and he had some other problems too, and the cops called my board op and said, "Hold him, we're on our way." And I'm thinking, what? And they said, "Hold him right there, don't let him leave," because they wanted to arrest him for whatever he was doing, like,
I believe it was something like desecrating a corpse. I mean, you are not supposed to be doing that.
No, you're not. Yuck. And I was thinking, Jade, you brought that up. Who was the guy, and this was a Carol McKinley story, that the Boulder Cops Crime Lab did not have their own ability to develop pictures, so they took it to 1 hour photo. Remember that?
Oh, I'd forgotten that. Yeah, there's so many bizarre twists and turns.
And the 1 hour photo guy ended up, we tried to get him in recovery, but then he's the one, that was it. He sold the pictures, I thought, to the Inquirer, to the Globe or somebody. And that's how one of the pictures, there was some terrible stuff out of that.
Right.
Then they found him. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, when you also think about how the media has changed since then, really it was, although Boulder had seen other crimes, I mean, you think about Robert Redford's daughter's boyfriend, but they were still running a little bit like Mayberry RFD in 1996.
And they were mad at everybody. Dave Mashad, we were talking about this, offered his murder team, and they turned him back. And the chief of police, why do you think Alex Hunter, who just passed away, the grand jury, after meeting for 13 months to hear testimony from everybody, and the grand jury voted to indict the parents, and Alex Hunter didn't do it? Why?
That will remain one of the big mysteries. And we have to, first of all, congratulate Charlie Brennan, who had stayed on the story, and he got the leaks from the grand jury.
Yes, he did.
And, the grand jury is basically threatened with contempt of court and jail if they speak. And we knew the grand jury did want to indict. What we still don't know is why Alex Hunter didn't want to indict and didn't.
And that led to all kinds of questions about the power structure and the investment money, and everything that spun around John Ramsey, and why?
Right.
Why didn't he drop? Go ahead.
And from the beginning, we knew that this case was treated differently because they were rich, nice white guys in Boulder, and that is not the way you deal with a potential crime scene that first day, and how people were tromping through the house and different people were searching through the house. I mean, Fleet White and John Ramsey should have been staying in one room with the police, even if whether or not Fleet should have been there, rather than searching on the cops' behalf through the house. So many weird things, and we will truly never be able to figure out a lot of this.
We were talking
because the secrets are going to the grave.
Yeah, I said that the Ramseys had a phone tree and the Whites came, and the Fernies came. I think the Hoverstock came. I think the church, the pastor, no, they were Episcopals. But anyway, he came, and they contaminated all of it. And I had to go back and read. The one that really threw me was the officer named Rick French. I couldn't remember his name. And French later talked about he went to the basement, came to a door that had been secured by this additional wooden latch at the top of the door frame, and he pauses, and then he walks away without opening it. And Officer French later said he was looking for an exit route used by the kidnapper. They're looking for the kidnapper. They're not looking at the Ramseys. And it's holding the door closed. And then when Linda Arndt says, one last time, search the house, and because French says, well, the kidnapper couldn't have used this door because it was closed from the inside, ruling out a possibility perhaps of an exit. And of course, that's where John Benet's body was. I mean,
and the setup of the body, yeah. The story just continues to be so strange.
Yeah.
I mean, that ransom note, that we go back to it, I mean, that was one of the most inexplicable, just how it was worded. Everything about it was just strange.
I read it on the air with Mark Crowley, who's all those years as a cop, and Mark said, I never read the note. And I said, well, the note's the great giveaway. It's probably not worth reading again, and it is worth reading again many times, but listen carefully. That's what it began. They addressed the note to John Ramsey, and it's the exact amount, remember, of his Christmas bonus, $118,000. And
it has, the line from Speed, don't try to grow a brain.
Yeah,
I mean, really bizarre stuff.
Second paragraph, you will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, remaining $18,000 in 20s. Who does that in a ransom note? Make sure you bring an adequate size attaché, and that's a French word. And remember, so Patsy puts I believe Patsy puts the explanation. I don't know it's called an umlaut in German. What's it called in French? The little mark.
Oh, I don't know, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And the fact that the ransom note was written there, like, who takes the time in a house with sleeping people to write a ransom note?
Of course not. Make sure you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 tomorrow morning. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. These kidnappers care about John's health.
Very thoughtful.
Yes, very thoughtful. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence, as Patsy writes, earlier pickup of your daughter. What a ransom note, huh?
What an episode. I mean, what a story.
And it goes on. I mean, this is the ransom note, folks. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. In a ransom note. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police and FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. If you try to deceive us, be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions and you stand 100% chance of getting her back. Who does that? And this the part again, you and your family are under constant security as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You're not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. And then say in the SBTC that some people believe meant saved by the cross. Whew.
Or Subic Bay. I mean, the mysteries just continue, and the frustration is we'll never really know, I don't think.
And the other part,
maybe
and the part that
maybe some John deathbed confession, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think when this is me being cheap Sigmund Freud, but he keeps appearing, and I mean, I transpose and say, okay, I'm John Ramsey. I'm hiding out. I'm changing my name. I mean, I'm going to become this other guy. He keeps coming on these television shows, and it's also sort of this telltale heart. He really wants to confess, and that's why he continues. Why he's in the clear,
or he really wants justice. I mean, who truly knows at this point? Is he trying to protect the family members who remain? We just don't know. But he was here this fall for a big crime convention.
I did my best to screw that up because on the stage with him was Paula Woodward.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She was, and I kept saying, everybody remember this. The grand jury wanted to indict the parents. Remember that. Remember it. When they stand there and proclaim their innocence, remember the grand jury saw everything. And they wanted to take them both down, and Alex Hunter didn't do it. Remember that. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff today, but remember that.
And I'm looking forward to listening.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I know you're busy this morning. Give me a final thoughts on that whole terribleness and then the aftermath.
I mean, really, truly a wake-up call for how things were changing in Boulder, in the media, maybe even with beauty pageants. I mean, how law enforcement is being done now, and the fact that you have to behave like a professional from the word go, that Rich should not be able to control the media, should not be able to control law enforcement, should not be able to set a stage. And because of how things were handled from the very beginning, we may never know what really happened.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And I know you're busy, and Merry Christmas to your mom especially, but you're just been a great friend this year. And Patricia, thank you very much. We'll talk.
All right. Well, solve it. Solve it before the show's over.
Goodbye. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
303-696-1971. I don't even know what the question is this morning, but just your thoughts about this. And all the years later, Alan Pendergast, who really is the best on this story, will be with us coming up at the top of the hour. 303-696-1971. Good morning. Lines are wide open. 29 years ago, the murder of Jean-Benet Ramsey. Right after this. Waking up this morning with Peter Boyles, Jeff and Bill off during the holidays. I'm Peter Boyles back on the job on a Friday, December 26, 2025. I'm trying to say, what do you call this show this morning? Maybe it's convening a grand jury again, or retrospectively looking back some 29 years ago today. Patsy Ramsey made the claim of finding the ransom note on the spiral staircase in their home. Good morning, everyone. 65 will be the high today, 61 tomorrow, and then 29 degrees, and Sunday is very, very cold, and 1 to 3 inches, 6 degrees on Sunday night. 303-696-1971. I don't even know what the question is in terms of going back and looking at the killing of JonBenet Ramsey. But I'd like to get your thoughts and your ideas of how, especially there was a media aspect of this. There is the part of the whole grand jury that voted yes to indict her parents. Alex Hunter said no. Watching all of it, one of the things that came out of this and it made our radio show work is the late Don Reggae. Donnie passed away, and we formed a company. I was called a media whore by probably bunches of people, but I glommed onto it and called it Media Whore Productions. There was some very upset people with me, which doesn't really seem to trouble me anymore. But so Donnie was absolutely brilliant and lived in Boulder, and he had incredible ability to do music and to put songs together. And I had ideas on songs, and I would get mindsets on different people and songs, and I'd write some of it, and I'd call Don, and I'd say, Donnie, I got a new idea. And I so wish he was here this morning with us, because he was absolutely brilliant, and we lost him. So we did a series of tunes, and we dubbed it all Media Whore. What did we call it? Peter Boyles, Don Reggae, Media Whore Productions present, I think. And so this is an example of the kind of work that Donnie and I pumped out. And if you remember Warren Zevon, he did The Werewolf of London, which I thought was a great tune. And so we decided to do Werewolf of Boulder. 3, 2, 1, we'll play it.
I saw a werewolf walk right past the media DIA, and his stare was perfect.
Awoo!
Awoo! The werewolf of Boulder. Next question.
That's Donnie. There it is. Donnie again. One more.
Accused his friends, threw them under the bus, implied the killer still walks among us, spread pamphlets and ads just to give people pause. Hell, he even tried to pin it on Santa Claus, Big John.
It's about John Ramsey.
Big John, Big John, Big Bad John.
Donnie Reggae. Wow.
Big John.
Wow. That's a medley of many of the, I think we did 12 songs before it was over, and gave them away. I mean, nobody ever made a nickel. One of the things that had troubled me, and there were a number of erstwhile media types, and I learned this, once you see on a crawl below, somebody is talking on air or on a television show, and we did a lot of TV during that, and you saw a crawl on the bottom that would say, it would claim the face of the person or the speaking person was now part of Fox News or part of CNN or whomever it was. They were getting paid. When it said that, they were getting paid, and that made they were getting money on the back of that little girl. They were getting paid. And that troubled me. And I was offered more than once, we want to come to work with us or for us, and we'll pay you. No, I wasn't going to do it, but a lot of people did, and they were part of that. I learned a lot through that, and the bottom line was, and we found it out later with the good work of Charlie Brennan, when a member, and we don't know if it's a man or woman, breaks the wall, and as Patricia Calhoun pointed out, went and the grand jurors had met regularly over 13 months of hearing testimony from everybody. They heard from everybody. They heard certainly from people that would not talk to me or not talk to us. And they came back and they said, John and Patsy, we want to charge you both with the murder of that little girl. The grand jury voted to indict the parents on charges, although that news never came to light. More than a decade later, we find out the truth, and the DA declines to charge. And in essence, they get away. And Patsy doesn't get away because she's dead soon after the grand jury decides there's no charges. They celebrate, and the people like Paula Woodward and others were championing them. And, of course, it's so sad. We learned to watch it. There at the time was the execution of Gary Davis. If you remember, the last man executed in Colorado was Gary Davis. And we went and took the radio show down to Canyon City. We were in Territorial, not in CSP, but in Territorial, and did our show for a couple of days. It was a really interesting experiment and experience to be inside of the penitentiary to do the radio show. And then that night, they executed Gary Davis. Well, there was a get-together, call it a party, call it a celebration, because they had worked years and years and years to take down Gary Davis. And in that party, Paula Woodward was there, said, may I ask you something? I said, ask me anything you want. She said, do you really think Patsy did it? Looking at her like, oh, no, it was, do we got a name coming up here? We clear some calls. 303-696-1971. Give me, Gary, go here, take some calls. Gary, you're on the radio show. Good morning and thank you.
Oh, hi, Pete. What a treat to have you on the show today and next week.
I think, I don't, this story, this mystery, which isn't a mystery, is very haunting. And now this is, if anniversary is the right word, 29 years ago, brother. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's when I first started listening to talk radio, and I started listening to you. And I remember, when you think about it, when you really think about what happened, the horror of this poor little child being killed. I mean, I always thought it must have been an accident. Somehow it must have been an accident, because who would intentionally kill that little girl?
You're right. It starts out as a raging accident, and then it ends up. The cause of death is asphyxiation. So she murdered that little girl. The little girl was alive.
Yeah.
This is personal belief.
And the one thing I learned about, I'll never forget this line, Pete, that you said, and it really showed me kind of how you do what you do. You remember that guy, John? I think his name is John Mark Carr.
Oh, yes, I do remember John Mark Carr. He was groomed by Michael Tracy. Michael Tracy, I don't even know how he keeps that job up at CU, but he groomed John Mark Carr, then he sprung John Mark Carr on people as the true killer. Of course I do. He was in Thailand. He was getting boobs.
Yeah.
He was getting boobs put in, and the ties called him a lady man.
Yeah, I remember one day I heard you, after you had talked about him for several days, you came right out and you were so honest, and you said, and I remember it, I'll quote it. You said, yeah, I lived off of that guy for a few days.
Yeah, we all did, because there were people that screamed at me and said, "There's the real true killer." And I remember that they got the tip. The two people that got the tip were the Ramsey Mountain News, the Rocky Mountain News, and Channel 9 were tipped, so they could. And I think they were. I don't know who tipped them. I have my personal beliefs on who tipped them, so they could make headlines on the real killer was caught, and it was this goofball named John Mark Carr, and he was groomed by Michael Tracy, who kept his job up at CU even after he had done this. And they sent the airplane. This shows you about the federal government, but they sent the airplane to Bangkok, a private jet, and he was drinking champagne and eating caviar, and they brought him back. And I remember talk show hosts celebrating and calling me and saying things, and I said, no, it's not. John Mark Carr confesses to the killing. We had his ex-wife on the radio show. She said John's never even been to Colorado in his life. But
yeah, and Pete, in today's political environment, if that had happened today, the federal government would probably be saying it was probably an illegal alien.
Oh, Gary.
One of those lunatics that they let out of the insane asylum. That's who it was, yeah.
Well, it was, she was crazy, but it was a little girl.
She wasn't,
yeah.
And she wasn't an illegal alien.
No, they were.
All right.
No, Patsy was born and raised in West Virginia.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
All right, man. You knew that was going to happen. 303-696-1971. Let me see. Well, a bunch of things to read. We'll read them on the other side. We have every line open, 303-696-1971, the 911 call and the search for this little girl, the killing of JonBenet Ramsey 29 years ago. Alan Pendergast coming up. Stay right here. Good morning again, everyone. It's a Friday morning, 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles, December the 26th, 710 KNUS. Patricia Calhoun was with us. Coming up, Alan Pendergast will be on the show. I'm back tomorrow at 9 o'clock following John Caldera, and I'll be doing some fill-in next week. The fellows are off. It was 29 years ago, and this little girl, almost 30 years, and six-year-old JonBenet Ramsey found dead in Boulder. And she was a beauty queen. She was born in Atlanta and reported missing from her Boulder home December 26, 96, and later found strangled to death. I'm listening and watching for Adam to give me the time. This is from The Wall. Too bad there is no toxicology report on John and Patsy. But it would have been that night. They were at the White's house, and they came home claiming that the little girl was asleep in the car, and they carried her in and put her to bed, which we know now that's not true. This is a really interesting one. It says, call the show Trial by Talk Show. Well, first of all, it was almost 30 years ago, but then I guess to this texter, I guess it was Trial by Talk Show host about the election being stolen. I guess it's Trial by Talk Show host on any and all. That's what talk radio many times is about. But if we put them on trial, we did work that no one else would do. And personal belief, of course, is that Patsy killed that little girl, and John joins in much later to help cover up. And I sense anger on this. Call the show Trial by Talk Show. Call the show to this texter, and I'm sure you're listening. Call the show. I'd love to have the conversation. There's great public fascination, a lot of speculation. No suspect gets arrested, and yet we find out. Said and done, the grand jury voted to indict her parents, and no charges ever followed. Explain that. And compare it to Aaron Thompson and Aaron A. Much the same. The difference was the cops, the district attorney, and others. The killing of the little girl, JonBenet Ramsey, an American tragedy, got national attention, and the family home, they've changed the address. 755 15th Street is no longer that. We're going to go all the way, and then we'll come back. We got Pendergast standing by. Please stay right here.